Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, it's a big one. We're back in the MCU.
We're back in one of the biggies, one of the goodies, one of the franchises, one of the ones you know them.
One of the staples. It was a big one for this year. We're talking about Black Panther Wakanda Forever this week on the podcast.
Ever.
Yes, Black Panther 2, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We're talking about it this week on the podcast. Excited to be getting into a new Marvel thing that's in the theaters. It feels like it's been a while. It feels like Marvel's been just going into our homes, which is a way we do like to consume it. But this is a big spectacle. This is a moment.
It's a big moment. I will say Thor was only like a month and a half ago.
Was it?
It wasn't that long ago.
That really,
I'm just gonna throw that out there at you. Like, it hasn't been like a drought.
Feels like it's been years. Weird. And I even thought Thor: Love and Thunder was fine. And my memory is just like that was just a puddle on the tides. Yeah, that was wow. Okay. Time is wild, and that exists outside of movies, so we need to keep that in mind.
I mean, time has changed so much in the last few years.
We're different people, you know?
We're all different people talking about different things. And this week we're talking about Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
That is right. And since it is a new movie, as we do anytime we are talking about a new film or TV show, we are going to give you a spoiler-free review. So in case you are on the fence about seeing it, not sure if it's worth your time, or maybe you're on your way to a theater to see it right now and you just want a taste of the episode before you go full in, for whatever your reasons might be, we're going to give you a spoiler-free review. Then, once you hear the theme song, that is going to be when we enter the spoiler-filled section. So, starting with the spoiler-free review, starting with the same question we always start with, the simple question. Diana, did you like it?
I liked it fine, and I'm really sad about that. I really wanted to love this film. It's got some problems. It's like sluggish, and I'm not sure who I'm rooting for or what I'm rooting for. The action sequences are pretty forgettable. I would say the things that look great are, oh my God, the costumes. Again, it's Ruth Carter, the same costumer from the first movie, and everyone looks incredible costuming wise. And there's some incredible performances in this. I don't think Letitia Wright can carry a movie, and it's a huge problem. I think she was a very good supporting cast member as Shuri, and I don't think she has the gravitas or the power to carry, especially this big a franchise and this full of such incredible actors. And it just it falls flat a lot. Some parts are really fun. I think about halfway through it gets to dragging, and you feel the runtime, which is well over 2 hours, I think 2.5 or something like that. It's too long, and it doesn't really have much to say. But it is, I will say, a beautiful send-off to Chadwick Boseman, who I miss very much all of the time. So they did a great job on those parts. So yeah, it's just a fine for me, which I'm sad about. So yeah, didn't have a lot of fun or catharsis.
I believe sis.
It felt like I had to say more letters on the word catharsis.
Well, at least understood where your head and heart was at on that one,
You're getting where I'm at. So yeah, I'm like a fine, see it in theaters, it is a spectacle, but I'm far from a love. Andrew, did you like it?
I feel like I'm kind of similar. It's good, not great. It is, they set out to accomplish an impossible task.
Absolutely, they did.
You know, when dealing with the tragic loss of a generational talent like Chadwick Boseman, there are few who could step up and fill it. So I do agree that Letitia Wright was given an impossible task, as was Ryan Coogler writing and directing a movie trying to fill such a void and kind of deal with themes of that. I think that in some areas it rises to the occasion. I think that they do very well dealing with an impossible scenario in many, many ways. I think that this movie is very much a mixed bag. When it succeeds, it absolutely shines. And there are moments in this where, for as much as there is a general public criticism of like the Marvel formula and the MCU Disneyness of it all, there are moments in this movie where it feels like Ryan Coogler set out to make the least formulaic, least Marvel movie to ever Marvel. And it shines in those moments. These moments of quiet contemplation that Coogler rests in, these moments of quiet contemplation about how to grieve and dealing with loss, this is an incredible movie that shines. And then the Marvel Studio system comes in and two CGI characters pew pew at one another for 20 minutes, and it's gobbledygook. It's complete gibberish. I really do feel like the moments in here that are writer and director Ryan Coogler with Joe Robert Cole was also one of the co-writers as well. I feel like the moments where it is their movie, you can feel that it is their movie. And every action scene, every CGI spectacle, you can feel that is licensed to 4 different multinational CGI conglomerates, and Ryan Coogler did not give a fuck because that wasn't part of a tribute to Chadwick. And I think rightfully so. I think Marvel should have stepped the fuck out of this one. So I think that there are moments of true artistic brilliance of a writer director giving an emotional goodbye and making a movie about loss. And then there are truly tragic, the worst Marvel is of CGI pew-pews, and here's a character we're setting up for a different movie. And doing that in Chadwick's memoriam actually contrasts it all and makes one another worse. It amplifies, it really feels shitty when they step aside from a sincere memoriam to setting up future franchises for additional profits.
That is, I can get fully behind everything you're saying. Yeah, if this was an hour-and-a-half movie of the exploration of grief with no fights, it would be an Oscar winner.
I think it would be brilliant. Yes.
The discussions about like science versus religion and whether that's to bring you comfort or whether you really believe in it are so interesting and so compelling. Angela Bassett and Denai Guerrero, I would say, can carry a movie this big.
Yes.
And they are both phenomenal in this. So if this was just them exploring grief and like figuring out the political nature of maybe Wakanda at this point, this would be a banger of a film. But yeah, then there's 2 dark action sequences. You can't see what's going on. They're not motivated. You're not rooting for anyone. But everything that is about just losing someone is so powerfully done. Yes.
Yeah, because I think that one of the bigger criticisms of the first Black Panther, which is generally universally loved, is that final fight sequence where it's 2 CGI Black Panthers in a dark environment just mushing bits. And that's it.
They mush their bits.
And at least in that movie, you have that one great fighting for the King title between Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman. You had that great casino scene with the Dora Milaje. There were 2 great action scenes and then 1 CGI mush. This one doesn't have a single good action scene. It doesn't have anything. So, and it doesn't need blockbuster spectacle because the heart is there. So that's what makes it so frustrating to watch, is that it's a bunch of very poorly done blockbuster spectacle getting in the way of some really sincere heart.
Yeah, I think we're on the exact same page here. Yeah, it's a mixed bag, and it's very unfortunate because half the bag is delicious, and the other half of the bag is just getting like sticky stuff onto the delicious parts of the bag. It's a bag of candy, I think. There's still, like food in the bag.
Yeah, I understood what you're going for now. I was picturing a bag of Halloween candy that you've collected some Halloween ones, and there's some stinkers in there.
Yeah, and they're unwrapped, and they're getting sticky stuff over all the good candies.
Yeah.
And that's Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, the metaphors, but Disney's sticky hands are screwing up the delicious food that I think Ryan Coogler is cooking up in this one.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So mixed bag, good, not great. And can it be spoiled?
Yes, it can be spoiled.
Yeah, I think the same. I think there are a few different twists and turns in here, some unexpected directions, and I think it can be spoiled.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't know the things before I saw the things.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I would say that to me says it can be spoiled.
Excellent. So we think it's good, not great, mixed bag. It can be spoiled. Now, before we get into the spoiler-filled section of the podcast, we want to give a thank you to one of our wonderful sponsors of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at Masterclass.
We want to thank our friends at Masterclass, where you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace.
You think best minds in the world Serena Williams in tennis. You can learn from Serena Williams. You can just learn tennis from Serena Williams on there. Do you realize how insane that is?
Your own personal tennis coach, Serena Williams, in like 10-minute little chunks of lessons over probably well over an hour of content.
Yeah. Simone Biles, gymnastics. Like you can learn from. We're talking the pinnacle. Like when you name an art, a sport, a creative endeavor, a trade, like whatever it is the pinnacle of that is available on Masterclass to teach you about it.
Yeah, you can learn cooking from Gordon Ramsay, who won't yell at you. He'll just teach you cooking, which is nice. That's nice for him. So whatever
they wrote him a special contract asking him not to yell.
Please, or maybe some people want to be yelled at by Gordon Ramsay. There's lots of opportunities for that. But whatever you're interested in, there's a class for you. There's over 180 exclusive classes taught by instructors that you know and love, with cinema quality classes that give you unparalleled access to these renowned instructors.
Yes, absolutely. I'm currently learning video games from Will Wright. A lot of phenomenal classes, and also it has a lot of it's a great app with a lot of good systems built in between bookmarks, between getting back into your classes, taking notes. I really like how well designed the interface is. It makes getting in, learning, and accessible, easy, giving you all of the tools that you need. And also it's a really fun service because, maybe you learn something you didn't initially plan to sign up for. Maybe you sign up because you're like, I want to learn comedy from Steve Martin. But then once you're in there, you're like, yeah, let's learn gardening. Let's try something else,
That absolutely happened to me because I signed up for all the writing classes and then I was like, I want to learn about sleep. And it was my favorite one. Because sleep rules.
Hell yeah.
And I sleep better because I learned about sleep.
Love it very much. So we highly recommend that you check it out. This holiday, give one annual membership and get one free. So go to masterclass.com/TFS today. That is masterclass.com/TFS. Terms apply, and thank you, Masterclass, for your support.
Thank you, Masterclass.
And now let's get into the spoiler-filled section of the episode. Let's talk about Black Panther Wakanda Forever. All right, we are now in the spoiler-filled section for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I'm trying to enunciate my Panthers. I've got my Invisalign in. I've got my invisible teeth in there. And they seem to be screwing with my Panthers.
I may have told Andrew just briefly just now that his Panthers aren't coming out.
My Panthers coming out as Panthers. I don't know why I'm going all Seinfeld on this. I got too many Panthers. Dang.
It's like if a panther and a panda came together, you got Panthers.
Which is a totally different film.
That's a different one.
Totally different film.
That's going to be the third movie.
That'll be that
The
one.
Black Panthers.
But we're talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and yeah, just a mixed bag. There's some stuff they artistically did that I really think is ambitious and wild. I love and respect.
As much as I don't think Letitia Wright can carry this movie, what they're doing on the script for her character and just the exploration of grief in multiple layers of what's happening is so interesting and it's a thing that every other Marvel movie would be like, you get one scene where you cry a little about the character and then we're done.
One person is the exploration of grief and the other three people are the ones with laser fists who are fighting the laser god.
But not even the exploration of grief. Every other movie is Odin dies in the opening of Thor Ragnarok and then we're not sad about it the rest of the movie.
Sure.
But this is
a whole movie of grief.
Yeah, you're figuring it out. You're exploring what it means and what it does to you and how it affects your whole society when it is a massive trauma. Mm-hmm. And it is a great exploration and it goes a lot of interesting places. And I love that it's different for every character in a really believable way where you're no one's right or wrong in how they're grieving. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful tribute to Chadwick in that way. But then there's just all the pews in between that and I wouldn't even mind, and it's a Marvel movie, so I wouldn't mind the pews, but the pews are so unmotivated and poorly choreographed.
Yeah, and look bad.
And they just look bad.
And they just look bad.
They're too dark. You can't see anything. I don't know what happened.
It's super fast, quick cut Michael Bay editing where it's like, here's a close up of a leg. I'm like, whose leg is, and it's gone, like the camera's already gone and off on someone else. So and like the geography's bad. I have no idea what's happening in any given moment. I think there was like a moment where Okoye was in a plane and then Namor slices it in two and it explodes. And then it cuts to Okoye still flying a plane. I'm like, oh, I guess that was a different plane in different places. But at no point did you use the language of film to explain or tell that. And it also wasn't purposefully a mislead. Mm-hmm. It was just close-ups of the inside of a cockpit of random planes, and then planes would explode, and then characters would just continue to speak, and none of it made sense.
It wasn't they put Chewie on a different transport and...
You know, that classic great in cinema.
Well, we all loved that Chewie was on a different transport.
But you can have motivated misleads.
You can have motivated misleads. But yeah, it is just messy for the most part.
I will say one thing I want to talk about, like how the movie starts.
Oh,
which
God.
I think is even before the title card, which is a beautiful tribute. But I think that it starts messy in a way that I think is artistic and smart and is Ryan Coogler kind of writing through dealing with the death of Chadwick Boseman, which is like this movie starts very frenetically and kind of like a jolt start to be like, he's in the other room and he's sick. What's happening? Oh my God. And he almost kind of passes, or like the character of T'Challa almost passes unceremoniously and off screen. And it doesn't even have that big of an emotional punch, frankly, in this opening shot. And I do think that like the rest of this movie is kind of writing through the emotions of someone quietly, unceremoniously in the other room passing away without you ever having a chance to like say goodbye or not having that movie moment, which is how real life works. And it's weird to kind of write how reality works not in movies in a movie. Mm-hmm. So it is a little like, at first it took me a second to be like, oh, this scene is kind of disjointed and unmotivated and just jolty. And then once it kind of hit in to be like, no, this is actually you kind of writing through the feelings of Chadwick's death. That's a moment of like messy brilliance, and I really like that opening for that.
I think the whole opening is brilliant. I didn't even find it messy. I felt because I guess messy kind of, because I found it frenetic on purpose and with reason. Like, you know, you're racing against the clock, and Shuri knows that, but I guess, and there's kind of a parallel to the writing process because, you know, Coogler had already written an entire draft of Black Panther 2 when Chadwick passed away. So it's like, oh, what are my completion rates at? Like, what do I do now? What's happening? Just to not know what to do with yourself, mm-hmm. and to miss the moment accidentally is like such a tragedy in itself. Yeah. There's so much happening here. And then as we move on, I actually think the funeral got me way more. Like, the opening was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. It was beautiful, and it was motivating story-wise of, like, Shuri wasn't there. Her science failed her. She doesn't know what to do. There is a lot happening there. But then just the actual funeral, like, killed me. The people who knew him crying and carrying his coffin while everyone else in Wakanda dances and celebrates his life is this beautiful dichotomy of what a life is. And it was heartbreaking and joyous at the same time. And I was bawling my eyes out.
Yeah, and then like that beautiful painting of Chadwick. And as well, like the opening Marvel title card. Just going right into the movie, I think was a strong choice. Then doing the title card of just Chadwick. I think that was very tastefully done. And I do have a lot of love and respect for that. I think that was the right choice. That was elegant. That was nice. I really enjoy that they did that. I think that was the right thing to do.
I also really liked it, especially with like no music underneath, I don't think. It was just images of Chadwick as Black Panther. And it's like, this is the only time you'll see him in this movie. And it's not really in the movie because the opening crawl of the Marvel logo isn't really part of a movie, but it's like, but he's part of it. He's in this.
And it does lead me to, like, I appreciate and this is such a low bar to give credit to Marvel Disney for, I appreciate not CGI technologying him into it.
yeah.
I appreciate the restraint / Ryan Coogler maybe being like, I am not coming back if you do this.
I am not CGing my recently passed away friend
into this
movie.
It's such a low bar for restraint, but I appreciate the restraint of Marvel Disney to not do that and having a tastefully done title card. Still representing the character, not Chadwick as a whole, but still like honoring what he created in this universe and this immensely massive force that he has put out into the world.
I also really appreciated that because I will say, every time we talked about the ancestral plane, I had a little bit of nervous tension in my stomach
Me too.
Please do not make a CG Chadwick in the ancestral plane, please. Because like a flashback to previous footage would be fine, like scenes with your brother, and like of course you can show that. But like if there had been a new T'Challa in the astral plane, I would have been furious.
I'm not even a religious man, but I was straight up praying in the theater that they didn't do it. Like every time they mentioned the astral plane, I was just like, please God, don't let Foggy have done this. Please God in heaven, do not do Chadwick like this. Do not have it.
You and Shuri going on the same journey of discovering you have a religious side to you that you didn't know about. In moments of real grief and strife, we will turn to the gods and pray to them.
Oh,
she
God.
wanted to see T'Challa, and we did not.
She was turning to technology for the answers, as was Kevin Feige when he CGI'd Chadwick. So that didn't happen.
Thank you for not.
Thank God.
Thank you for not doing that.
So I'm very happy about that. But yes, it was tastefully done off the top. A good goodbye to him, and I think that there is. It seems like we both took a little bit of something different from that kind of cold open, but the funeral as well almost felt like this frenetic, we're moving quick in the sense of like how kind of funerals happen in real life when there's an untimely passing, where it's just kind of like something happened and next thing you know you're at a funeral. Like it seems to be that confusing, overwhelming type of speed off the top intentionally, and I think it really works.
Yeah, where like a day later you'll be like, where did all the time go? Like, how did I black out for like 3 days from grief? And like everything somehow got organized, even though I didn't do any of it. And then suddenly there was a funeral. And then he's literally gone. I don't know where they sent his coffin. I don't know why it goes up into a ship.
That was a strange flex, right? Because they bury the mom.
Yeah, are you going to shoot him into space? Where is T'Challa going?
Yeah, I don't fully understand what was up with that, especially after they physically bury Ramonda, Queen Ramonda at the end. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, then where was that coffin going?
Yeah, although I did like the visual of it, because it kind of reminded me of, this is a weird thing to have felt in the moment. It reminded me of Spider-Verse when Miles isn't falling, he's rising, and they flipped the image upside down.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It felt like he's passed away, but
up.
he's still rising up.
Yeah.
Like he's still with us and above us and thinking of us, but I don't know where the ship brought him.
Yeah. And also I think that like if that is a metaphor, it's also a weird thing to do in a property with like space creatures and resurrection, but so that a weird thing but a cool visual, and it really worked. And then I think it moved straight into the Namor stuff.
No, then we get a little bit of like other countries want
right.
Vibranium and Queen Ramona being like, nope, you all suck. And rightly so.
And I think that does lead to the closest to working action scene in the movie, which is the like a French military team infiltrating a Wakandan science facility, only to find out that all the scientists were Dora Milaje waiting for them in a trap. And I think that is brilliant. And I think that even though the choreography of this is the best in the movie, and it's still not great, it still doesn't stack up to the first Black Panther movie. It's still a little too quick edited. It doesn't quite work.
Way over edited. Actually, the choreography might have been good, but the over editing hit all of the moves if it was.
Yeah. But it was at least the most motivated action scene, and it felt like cutting to this like UN council of like, you're weak, we want your resources. It'd be like, no, we're not, and no, you don't.
What a boss bitch move to walk their own prisoner, like their own men who they've taken prisoner, into the meeting to like prove your point. This was a powerful opening.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And Angela Bassett is just so powerful and so incredible and like an absolute queen, like a monarchical queen and just like a life queen.
And
she is so good.
She rocks the shit in this. It is truly incredible. She rips up the screen. It is so impressive.
I almost really wish we were not currently watching 911, where she plays just a cop in Chicago or wherever city this is set in, because she's great in it. But just
It's LA, or it's somewhere in
LA.
California.
But anyway, she's just
in
playing a
911.
regular
Yeah.
cop. And I hate for a few minutes every scene, I'm like, huh, she's a cop? No, she's Ramona. She's undercover.
But even in 911, it's
She
like
is very powerful and has a huge presence.
she's the greatest actor on television in a medium goofball show that has a guilty pleasure of ours. But Angela Bassett is just a legendary actor who owns the screen at every possible moment. I think could and should have been the star in this. Like, Latita was put in an impossible scenario because, as so many people have discussed, Chadwick Boseman was on the verge of becoming this generational talent, this sincere, once-in-a-generation actor where everyone loves and respects him and just brings everything to a role. And who fills that? And they went with a younger, less experienced actor who, even if Latita turns out to have a fantastic career over the coming years and decades, she's not a generational talent. Whereas Angela Bassett, however, is a generational talent as well. Angela Bassett is someone who, like, no one has a bad thing to say about a single performance of Angela Bassett.
No, like I would even argue, actually, I feel mean. This feels a little mean. Letitia's the least good actress of the actresses available to be Black Panther in this movie, because Lupita Nyong'o and Denai Guerrero are also really up there.
Also
so
agree.
of all the 4 lead females who could become Black Panther in this movie, it's like Letitia has the least presence and the least emotional impact, which is unfortunate. Like, if Angela Bassett had been Black Panther in this movie,
And Angela Bassett is also just like a jacked shithouse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
if she took the heart-shaped herb, Namor would be fucked.
Oh.
No plan. She doesn't even need this whole dry him out plan. She would wreck this man.
Namor turns to dust from a single
Yeah.
look from Angela Bassett.
With the
It
Black
is-
Panther
I would
powers.
kill to have, like, the shoulders and collarbone of Angela Bassett. My God.
Who would?
Pure strength embodied. But yeah, Letitia just didn't. There are strengths to her performance, and I think that it is a complementary performance. It works better serving others, and it works better as someone who in Black Panther, like, lightens the mood and is a comedic relief. And I don't even think that she's a strictly comedic actress. I think that she actually has a bit more range than that. But by her becoming the stoic lead, she doesn't have enough emotional nuance to convey stoicism in that lead role. And then also it kind of fucks with a lot of the dynamics as well, where, like, now there's not enough comedic support. So we have, like, M'Baku, who is incredibly fun and charming, but he's kind of falling into the joke role, and he's good at that, but he's the only one doing it, and it doesn't quite work for him.
Yeah, I mean, Okoye got to do a little, and I actually think these scenes worked incredibly well when they went to pick up Riri at university, and, like, she's throwing heaters at Okoye, and Okoye is just laughing about like, oh, this little tiny girl threw a heater at me. I'm so scared. And, like, Letitia's quite good in that scene because it is like a supporting group ensemble scene, and I think this is where she does shine. I think she is, like, at this point in her career, much better as a supporting actress. And, like, yeah, that's a scene where there's a little bit of humor and a little bit of life. And then this movie's kind of joyless other than when M'Baku's around. And it's an exploration of grief, so it has to be, but it's so long.
I think it does say a lot, though, that, like, Letitia is the lead of this movie, for sure. This is a movie about Shuri. But I think the most memorable scene of the movie for me is Queen Ramonda and Okoye, when she strips Okoye of her general status. And that is a two-hander. I do think a couple of the other council members have a line in that scene, but for the most part, that's a two-hander play that they do. And it is burned into my brain, and that is the scene of this movie. Like, that is a load-bearing scene. If you see one scene from the movie, you see that, and you study the performances there. It is earth-shattering how well both of them do in that.
That scene is incredible. They're both bringing it all, and they both have both the characters have such strong points. It's such a well-written and performed scene of like, I've given, like Okoye being like, I've given everything for Wakanda, let me prove myself again. And then Queen Ramona very rightly being like, you betrayed us when Killmonger took over the throne. Like, you know, you supported the throne, but you didn't support our family, and I had to hide in the woods, and I've forgiven you once already. You're done. And both have equally valid points in this argument and are both destroyed by it.
Yeah.
It's such a good scene.
These two signs of I've given everything, and then Angela Bassett's side being like, I've had everything taken.
Oh, yeah.
Like that idea of like, everything you've given willingly.
Yeah, you gave up your husband for Wakanda.
Yeah.
You gave up our trust to protect the throne, but she had it taken away. Yes, that is a great point.
Yeah, so that is the best scene in the movie. But I think that also says a lot about, you know, Shuri being the lead of this movie, that the most memorable scene is one that she's not part of. That the most memorable scene is these two more dominant performers of this movie really elevating a moment.
Yeah, that scene's very good. I actually will say I think the most memorable scene for me had Shuri, but it was because of Angela Bassett. It's when they go into the wild to try to, like, she tries to teach her how to grieve and to like go on her flock. And Shuri tells her, the T'Challa you saw in your mind was a construct. I don't believe in the afterlife. And Angela Bassett has this incredible line, and like, and what do you construct in your mind when you think of your brother? Does it bring you comfort? And it's just such a nice, simple breakdown of like, what does it hurt to believe? Like, if it helps, if it brings you comfort. It's a really powerful, simple scene that I really, really liked. And there's also a weird line where you're like, weird line in this because like, we kind of know that their afterlife is real. There's no guesswork.
It is a little bit weird when we have a proven accurate afterlife.
But I think we as the audience are the only ones who know that, because like the people in the movie weren't with T'Challa when he went on his journey. The people in the movie weren't with Killmonger when he saw his dad in the astral plane. So we as the audience are fully aware their afterlife is real. But it does remain with a lot of gravity because the characters aren't sure. So they are acting on faith.
I'm with you there, and I do think that not only are they acting on faith, it's a scene that represents a lot of different ideas from the movie. You know, finding comfort from your grief. Where do you turn? A science versus a religion debate, and I think that there's also something very, very generational about that conversation as well. Not that you know, science and practices and practicality versus religion hasn't been a conversation for a long ass time, but it is becoming more and more common now that children are not sharing the beliefs that their parents had or their parents intend to pass down to them. So I think that there's also a generational conversation happening here. So I think it is very layered, and it does work. I'm with you. I do like that scene. Yeah,
and I think that will bring me to maybe a huge negative of this movie is you don't kill off Angela Bassett.
You don't do it. You don't do it.
It's a movie that's already exploring grief, so there was really no reason to have a second death. Like, it doesn't really add much, and also the death was pretty lame. Like, she was just kind of floating there. Yeah. It didn't have an emotional resonance. Like, this great character suddenly gone, and, you know, it happens quick, like it does kind of with T'Challa at the beginning, but not in a way that has any impact.
It really feels like just kind of burning that character to give motivation to be like, the villain's the bad guy now.
Yeah.
Before, for a moment, you were like, maybe the villain's not the villain. Like, we let you think for a minute, but it almost feels like it was like, ooh, everyone liked Killmonger too much.
Yeah.
So we need to actually make our villain more villainous halfway through. It really feels like they backtrack on the like maybe empathy that they're seeding for him throughout half of the movie. So yeah, it feels like that is just like kind of a mid-movie to be like, and now the pews are motivated. But it doesn't make the pews motivated, and it actually kind of...
We have to make sure you're rooting for Wakanda, because this movie's called Wakanda Forever, so he has to do something real bad.
Yeah.
And like they're like, what else? We can't think of anything else. Yeah, it was pretty tacked on, and like, now you just don't have Angela Bassett for the rest of this franchise. You fools.
Yeah.
You absolute fools.
It seems like a waste. It seems like a true and absolute waste. And Angela Bassett's character, Queen Ramona, dies from drowning for the same period of time that someone else doesn't drown in.
Yeah.
So, like,
and
it's just still like,
They've got this crazy technology that, like, Shuri survives getting stabbed in the stomach.
Yeah.
Shuri gets stabbed worse than Killmonger did, I think, at the end of Black Panther 1. And she's absolutely fine. But they're like, ooh, she was in the water for like a minute and a half.
I think at that point, Shuri had taken the power of the Panther, though.
She had, but so had Killmonger. He died of a stab wound to the stomach.
Oh, that is true. I was mainly saying Angela Bassett.
Oh, no, Angela Bassett.
But they do have a lot of technology, I would say, as well, is the other big thing.
Yeah, and she got help right away.
She did get help right away. The same level of medical attention
as Riri.
Yeah, a bit of. We'll get more into Riri now.
We'll get more into Riri.
But let's take a short break in the podcast to thank one of our other sponsors of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at Uncommon Goods.
We want to thank them because they help you avoid boring, basic, bland gifts. You're going to get something cool and interesting and unique at Uncommon Goods. They're uncommon and they're good.
Get those bland gifts out of here.
Get out of here.
You know the one. Imagine any gift that you've gotten multiple years in a row. Not that. That ain't it.
Given multiple years in a row.
That's not the hot stuff. All right. You want something unique. You want something memorable. You want something that's that's you or them, or you want something that is a little bit special for whoever you're getting it for. And Uncommon Goods is going to have that. And when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting small artists and small independent businesses. And these fine products are often made in small batches, so it's good to start shopping now before they sell out this holiday season.
Yeah, they're high quality. They're unique. They're handmade. They have meaningful, out of ordinary gifts. We have a charcuterie.
I got this for you. This is something I got from Uncommon Goods.
Andrew
I love
crushed
it.
Andrew crushed it. It's this charcuterie board, and it's got a little tray underneath with for all your cheese knives. And they're like, it's shaped out perfectly for each knife. So you have a place for them to go and you have a knife for every cheese. We took it out. I love it. And we also brought it out at a party. And our friends lost their mind. They said it looked like James Bond's charcuterie board.
Yeah.
And it felt really cool.
It's like some Tony Stark stuff, but for cheese, which is kind of the vibe I'm trying to cultivate for our household.
Crushing it.
Yeah. So just have the cheese knives built right into the board. Why were we putting those separate places? Get that right in the board. That was an Uncommon Goods find. So thank you, Uncommon Goods, for that. And with every purchase you make, they give $1 back to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $2.5 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/TFS. That's uncommongoods.com/TFS for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary, and thank you, Uncommon Goods, for your support.
Thank you, Uncommon Goods.
And now back to Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Should we talk about Riri a little bit?
Let's talk about Riri.
I think this is one of the things that really harms the film.
I like the actress, and
I agree.
And I like the character, and I think her show is going to be great. She's got a Disney Plus show coming out, and I think if this was just like a cookie cutter Marvel movie, she would have fit in great. When this becomes the T'Challa grief movie, you absolutely cut this character out of the film.
You've got to get rid of this character. But this is one of those moments where it feels like Ryan Coogler was like, I'm writing out my remorse over Chadwick. And Marvel was like, cool. Do not forget that Lionheart premieres on Disney Plus in 2023, and we do need to tag that in there, and it's a fan favorite character. And I'm like, it's a fan favorite, it's fun, it's cool, love this actress. It does not belong within 1,000 miles of this movie and script.
No, a movie where you're introducing a quirky young scientist absolutely works for a Spider-Man, a Miss Marvel, it's something where you're having a lot of fun. But this movie where you're exploring grief, especially, and there's a way it could have worked because Riri and Shuri are so similar. They're young geniuses who work with technology the exact same way. So this could be a movie about bonding and her dad died and they're sharing their grief and you could have integrated this character in a way that worked, but it's not about bonding. It's not about sharing grief. It really is just well, she's been introduced now, so her show can just start, and it doesn't work in any way. And her technology isn't as good as Wakanda's. So it's like, what do we need her for?
And they also need to unwrite her at the end of the movie
Yes,
so
yes,
that her
they
show makes
absolutely-
sense.
You can't keep the vibranium suit.
Yeah, so at the end of the movie, being like, you don't get to keep that. The designs are here. You don't get any vibranium. You need to go back to making one in a garage. Your show needs to be, you need somewhere to go on your show, so bye.
So it doesn't matter that she was here. We could have just gone to her show and she had Stark armor she made herself and she had all this other, and she could detect vibranium maybe. I don't know. It wouldn't matter.
Legitimately, if this character was not here and at some point in the movie, Okoye as a character looked right down the barrel and said, Ironheart on Disney Plus 2023. Go to disneyplus.com/Ironheart for a free 7-day trial. And then they continued the movie, it would serve 100% of the same function.
Mm-hmm.
It would serve exactly this. It is just promotional material. It's no different than drinking a Sprite with the label turned towards the camera. It's product placement for art you're supposed to be creating, which doesn't make any fucking sense and is really in the way here.
Yeah, but it's also like if they were drinking a Coke during T'Challa's funeral scene. Like that's the equivalent of what's happening here.
Yeah.
Let me just squeak in my promo in the middle of your exploration of grief.
Yeah. After Tony Stark's funeral, when Happy is turning to his daughter and is like, can I get you anything? And she was like, I'd like an Xbox One X. It's the best gaming platform out there right now. Be like, are you kidding? You can't do product placement in a funeral. So that's how Ironheart feels to me.
No, 100% agree. Yeah, like she could have worked great in a funner, more lighthearted movie. I think the actress is great. The show is going to be wonderful, probably. She didn't have any place in this rewritten Black Panther 2 script. Like, I'm sure original Black Panther 2, she fit in great.
I can 100% believe that.
Her and Shuri would have been fun together. Two little lighthearted sidekicks. Like it would have been more of a vibe of like when Tony and Peter like do science together, and it's like we both know science. That's so fun.
Aren't we
We're
having
science
fun
bros.
together?
Yeah, they'd be science sisses, and like that would be fun. But no, it doesn't.
But in a movie about grief where Shuri is like, am I becoming Killmonger? To have someone who's just like, whoa, science lab, we're having fun. No, it doesn't really work. And it's just also a pew-pew person. It's just a fully CGI character. And also, Coogler, and the cinematographer of this movie, does not know how to do any aerial stuff. Like, it was truly miserable to watch anytime Ironheart flew. It would be like a close-up of a leg, a close-up of a booster, inside the mask, spinning, ground. And it would be just these like fraction of a second shots of kind of nothing.
Yeah, also when Okoye got her flying suit, very, very bad work happening there. It'd be like shots of her face inside the suit that were too close, which gave me the impression she was actually in a ship and not in a suit. So then when it cut to a suit, I was like, oh, she's in a suit? Because the close-ups were like made the mask look very deep and thick. I thought she was in a plane.
They didn't, I guess, use the same techniques. It's like the wrong camera, the wrong lens. I agree. Inside of the masks looked wrong, and it looked claustrophobic in a way that made me feel shitty.
Yeah, like I didn't feel like powerful and like Okoye was here to have a fight and win. I was like, oh no, the suits are too tight and they're gonna die. Like it didn't make me feel good. Yeah, they didn't know how to do any aerial stuff. Or even like the side of the ship thing when the Adora Milaje are like fighting as Namor's people go up the ship. It was like all weightless and didn't look like anything, and I couldn't tell who was winning and losing.
I thought that was okay for moments, but it was over edited. I think that was one that actually had a lot of opportunity. Like there was a moment there where I'm like, this kind of like we're hanging upside down, fighting you down as you come up, and like the slow-mo for a moment.
Cool idea.
But then it did become like all of the action scenes, that and the aerial stuff. There was no sense of geography and there was no kinetic energy. It was just things would move right to left and then things would move left to right and then things would move up to down because the orientation was always changing of the camera. And if the orientation is always changing, I'm like, I don't know where people are or are trying to get to, and it just loses all kinetic energy.
Yeah, and this is going to be a weird complaint for a movie that I've already said is too long several times. All the action scenes were really short. Like Marvel usually has like almost too long of an action sequence. Like when I think of like the Winter Soldier car chase scene on the highway, I'm like, that sequence is like 15 minutes long and it's killer. And they put a lot of thought into it and they knew what was going to happen. Even the end fight sequence is like 5 minutes. Like they go up on the boat, Shuri fights Namor, and it's just over. And it just feels like normally these are like 20-minute long set pieces. So like you really do feel like the action is an afterthought. And I hate to say it, but it's a Marvel movie and it can't be.
Or it needs to be not there.
Or it needs
like
to
we
be
said
not there
off
at
the
all.
top. And I think that it was an afterthought, and I think that this is to go back to an impossible task of racing to play catch up to release a movie that you weren't planning on. You had to write a new script and release a new movie without the star that you expected to is a lot to ask. And I think that Ryan Coogler did focus on, we've rewritten the script, we're hurrying into production, we're getting this done. I'm going to do these. I'm working on these emotional scenes today. We're doing Okoye and Queen Ramonda, and we're doing that scene, or we're doing something that's like big and emotional. And I even noticed in the credits, I've never seen that many second unit directors on something before. And for those of you who don't know, second unit directors, sometimes if the main director doesn't need to be there, if it's not like Angela Bassett, you need to cry, sometimes it'll be an action director, sometimes just a practical thing to be like, this is a shot where 2 cop cars pull up to this building and they all pull out guns and one cop goes, come out with your hands up. The main director isn't there to film that. They get someone else to step in and do it. There were I think like 4 or 5 second unit directors, which I don't think I'd ever seen before, which really goes to show that it's like anything that wasn't a dialogue scene, Ryan Coogler, I'm willing to bet, was not there for. And it really feels and shows.
It definitely does, because Ryan Coogler is good at action. Like, we just watched Creed, and incredible, like, the fights are incredible in Creed. In Black Panther 1, like, I think the fights are actually really good. I love the bar fight. I love the fight in the water. I actually think even the CG fight is very good. People give it a harsh time. I think it looks cool. So there's like he can film action.
Yeah.
So he definitely wasn't there.
Just didn't have the time.
No, didn't have the time, or maybe the heart or the energy.
Yeah.
Or to be like, these aren't the parts of the movie I care about.
And again, an impossible task.
Absolutely.
To do that much, that intentfully in that short of a period of time under not ideal circumstances.
Under the best circumstances, like under the circumstance of like we still have Chadwick, which would be incredible, making any sequel to Black Panther 1. Already a daunting task, like a almost considered perfect film that was such a huge cultural shift. So then to make a sequel when you lose Chadwick, like a doubly impossible task. It's incredible it was made. Like what's actually happening here is a miracle in itself.
Yeah, I can 100% agree with that. I think that's why this movie gets a good, not great from me. You know what I mean? Like when we did the spoiler free earlier, we're like, it's good. And it is. I think that under ideal conditions, this would be a poor to mediocre, but all things considered, it's like, this is actually quite good. It's just not great. It's not a love. But quite good considering the circumstances and considering everything. But a lot of the problems are the Marvel stuff.
The Marvel stuff. Now, I will say someone who absolutely knocked it out of the park, and I think I already brought her up, Ruth Carter does the costumes. And she did the costumes in 1, and she does the costumes here. And this isn't just like costumes repeating. It's like everyday costumes, which look so good. Like everything Queen Ramona wears. All of the funeral garb is this beautiful, simplistic looking stuff. Like everything is so spectacular costume wise in this film. Even little things. I will actually say this is a thing I really like. I actually don't love Shuri's Black Panther suit all that much, but what I do love about it is that she actually has the gold and the silver mixed together to show that she is half Killmonger and half T'Challa.
Ah, yeah, that's nice.
That's what I interpreted from it anyway.
Okay.
And I think that's a really cool idea. Like there's so much thought into every costume in this film, and they're all so dynamic and interesting, and they draw your eye, that I have nothing but huge praise. I hope you win another Oscar. Like, so incredible work happening here.
The one downside that I will say for costuming that I did not enjoy, and I didn't enjoy that they hung a lantern on it.
The blue ones?
The super suits.
The Midnight Angel?
Midnight Angel, that's what it's called. The Midnight Angel super suits. The fact that we're introduced to it early in the film, and we're introduced to it with Shuri being like, I made this, and Okoye being like, it's hideous. I hate to look at it. I won't wear it. It's truly miserable. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's kind of like a fun bickering back and forth. And it'll end with like, Okoye spray paints it or something. And it's like, I've made it my own or something like that. But then they just go with it. And I'm like, but you've dumped on this the whole movie.
But you hate it.
And now you have your characters in it. And I know the characters hate it. And I know that the movie kind of hates it. So I definitely also hate it. So why did we hang a lantern on how shitty it is?
Yeah, and like just in general, the blue color scheme doesn't work, especially because Namor's people are blue, and that's their color scheme for the film. So just blue at all. I think these are like based on the comic book Midnight Angel looks, but still there's no reason to say you don't like it, even if you are going to go with it being blue and looking like the comics. You should act like it's like, no, we love it like we love every other thing we've designed ever.
You got to act like it's cool.
You got it. I'm not going to dress like that for Halloween if you don't think it's cool.
No.
I'm not going to buy that action figure if you don't think it's cool.
Imagine you go to buy an action figure, all right, and it's Midnight Angel Okoye. It's your classic 6-7 inch action figure, and on the case it's a photo of Okoye from the movie, and above it is the speech balloon, and it says, "That looks hideous." Like what? Like
Okoye hates it. It's one of the lines in this movie. And
that's your action, like.
And she didn't seem to hate it for practical reasons.
No,
she wasn't like, I can't move in it or it's hard to see. As far as we know, she didn't like the way it looked.
It was, I choose not to be Tony Stark because it's ugly. Yeah.
So you're right. I stand by every other costume in this.
And you know what? I agree with you on the other costumes. It is a very good-looking movie costume.
But that is a weird choice to make.
Yeah.
That feels like a choice you make because maybe Marvel designed that and Ruth Carter didn't get to.
Maybe.
And Coogler's putting a line in, like, this one thing, we didn't make that.
This is ugly. And
that's
you didn't
not
let
Ruth.
us do
Hey,
it.
Oscar committee, Ruth didn't make that one. I don't know if that's true. This is Diana's speculation.
Well, should we get into Namor and some of the underwater stuff?
We do need to get into Namor, of course. We haven't gotten into him much. I'm iffy on Namor.
Lay it on me.
I think Tenoch did a great job of this Namor. Like he's like charming, but he's interesting. He's kind of sympathetic, but he's like a little bit of a villain. He's kind of like middle sliders all the way down.
Yeah, all middle slider, I would say.
He's all
except
middle,
for strength. Then those are big slided all the way to the right energy.
He didn't even slide all the way down for Speedo. Like he middle slidered on Speedo.
Yeah, the boxer brief of Speedo, which I kind of respect.
I don't. This is because I will say my biggest complaint about Namor is this is, I think, one of the furthest away from a comic book character I've seen of like based on source material. He doesn't feel like Namor to me in almost any way.
Okay. I thought you were going to say in terms of design. And
no,
I was going to
no.
be like, they gave him feet wings.
They gave him feet wings. No, I honestly, I wasn't expecting feet wings.
I was
when
also...
When I saw the trailer and they gave this man feet wings?
No one was expecting. Of all of the things that you need to visually change for movies, I would have been like, number one, someone at Marvel is like, we've got to kill the feet wings. I love that they kept feet wings.
I love
feet
that
wings
they
are
kept...
buck wild, and I love that.
I love the feet wings. I love feet wings in the comics. I love feet wings here. It felt like a thing that they were going to be like, he's got like tattoos on his ankles and he doesn't actually fly with feet wings. Feels like a very thing they would have done. But I love that he had feet wings. I actually think he does visually look a lot like Namor. But like comic book Namor to me is just like so arrogant, so loud, so brash, so reckless. He runs in head first. He's not really a strategist. He's just like, I punch everyone in the face and I steal your wife. And that's Namor to me. And I really love Namor. He's one of my favorite anti-heroes. So like, as Tenoch is good, but I'm just like, I don't like this interpretation of Namor just at a base level.
Okay. All right. It doesn't bother me as much.
I think I have more love for Namor than you. I'm more of a Fantastic Four girl.
You do have a much bigger attachment to Fantastic Four and Namor than myself. Yeah. I have a bigger attachment to Doom.
Doom's
we're going
also
Fantastic
gonna
Four.
Doom's great.
Doom is one where I'm like, if Doom was not the Doom from the comics, I'd be like, you've wasted everyone's time. But I don't have that for Namor. But I respect and appreciate that you do.
So yeah, those are my feelings toward Namor. I want him to be louder and angrier and just more arrogant. But like this is I'm gonna stick with middle sliders.
Interesting.
How do you feel about this, Namor?
I enjoy the premise of well, first of all, actually, I think Huerta does a phenomenal job with the performance. Even though I hear what you're saying that it is written a little bit different than it is in the comics, I think he does a good job of owning this character, of being like slightly sympathetic, kind of likable. He's not full punch you in the face, steal your wife, but he is.
But if he did, I wouldn't be surprised.
If he really locked down and dedicated to charming someone, I think he can. He does have a natural charm and charisma, and like has that Dr. Doomy kind of like, my people do love me. Like I'm swimming through the city and at no point am I like a fearful dictator. Like I'm a dictator only from people who look from the outside looking at me. Everyone within thinks I'm incredible.
Oh, this is a great point. He is kind of more Dr. Doomy than traditional Namor.
Yeah,
That's actually kind of cool.
Where it's like the world will perceive me as a dictator when in fact I'm a benevolent god.
Yeah, my people love me and I will protect them with my last breath.
And those of you who don't understand mutants and powers and don't understand me will see me as a false god and like someone to never be bowed to, but I'm an actual god, and I'm good to my people. I saved us, and I will always protect us. So I think that there is that level of like, it's a little bit more Dr. Doomy than Namor typically is in the comics. I think that writing works. I think the performance really works. I really also kind of like this motivation of them coming out now because of the search for vibranium. This
actually a really good plot point.
And I think like the geopolitical stuff that they go for in this movie does really work. The colonial aspect of a weakened nation that we want to take the resources from now that we perceive them as something that we can, now that they don't have a world-class superhero and we perceive them as weak. White nations are trying to take their resources as they always have. American nations and
NATO?
I don't know what is Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character?
Val.
Val being like that conversation with Val being like, well, let's destabilize them, and just
so casual.
Yeah,
just like, of course.
Yeah, it felt like the evil version of her character on Veep, like the thing that she would usually use soft language to talk around, just to be like, America destabilizes foreign nations that don't give us the resources we want. Like just flat out saying that, and then also like Namor just coming and being like, you idiots, you exposed yourselves because you thought you were the only ones, and now they're not going to stop searching for the thing they want. Like you've put up, I think it's a very reasonable concern. And I really like this kind of like this geopolitical element that they have of this underwater world. So I like a lot of the Namor stuff here.
I think it like him coming out at this time makes a lot of sense. How he stayed hidden makes a lot of sense. Like them looking for vibranium in his home and him defending it and like really works. It's very interesting. I was wondering how they were going to like explain this hidden society for so long and why he's coming out now. I will say having the two sovereign nations who avoided colonization fighting each other is not a compelling battle that I want to see.
Yeah.
I mean, it has historically happened and it's like a little, and it's upsetting and it's true, but it's like, it's not, you're not rooting for either side, but it is a very interesting story to bring Namor in to be like, we can be allies easily.
Yeah.
And like, we do have similar backstories and I am an interesting character and there's good reason for me to be here.
Yeah, I think he works. I think he's powerful. His society really works. I like that everybody kind of loves him. I like that he's charming and likable. I think that like a lot of the visuals of the undersea stuff was a little murky. It didn't quite work for me. I think that generally speaking, this movie was way too, when it was dark, it was
so
unwatchable. Dark. I couldn't make anything out. The colors and contrasts were very poorly done in a lot of the dimly lit stuff. There were a handful of moments underwater where like they did beautiful work with the lighting.
When the sun was revealed in his city, I was like, that's really cool. Because of course it would be murky. You're very far underwater. There's not sunlight coming in. But like, and then when the sun that he made out of vibranium, I guess, emerges, it's like, oh, this is very beautiful. But for the most part, I think like 60% of this movie I couldn't see very well.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and yeah, so I think that it was a mixed bag with the Namor stuff. Yeah, and I think that he worked better as a complicated ally than I murdered your mom. Now let's have laser battles.
Yeah,
that felt very lazy Marvel writing towards the end. But I think in a better story, I think this character or not even in a better story, but in a more traditional story.
I would say in a full Coogler.
Yeah.
In a no studio interference, this is a very interesting character.
Yeah, I agree.
I have questions, though. How is Namor, underwater and all of his people, smelting vibranium? How are you melting things underwater to make things?
Oh, I think it's a frequency thing because I forget how it is Wakanda actually converts vibranium.
Frequencies.
It's with like frequency stuff. It's not actually with heat because you can't overheat vibranium. It's a raw resource that cannot be manipulated or changed.
You make a great point about frequencies.
Yeah.
And they seem, because that also brings me to my second question about Namor's people. What's up with the mind control?
Oh, yeah, they don't really bother. They're just like, y'all heard about sirens?
That's us? Question mark?
That's them.
And it's not really a plot point?
It is not super relevant as a plot point, is it?
It's incredibly cuttable that they're sirens.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're sirens twice.
They're sirens for like the regular humans,
Yes.
the NATO people or the US people, whoever they are.
And that's a creepy moment.
It's a really cool, creepy moment. And then like 3 Wakandans walk off a cliff and the rest of them are like shove their beads in their ears and like, we're good now.
And then they fire a rocket at the sirens and the sirens are like, oh,
I didn't like that.
No, not cool.
I didn't like being rocketed.
Not cool, guys.
Oh, not cool. So yeah, the sirens was so random.
I'm with you on that.
It was so weird. And it almost felt like there was an entire thing missing or like a thing that they just wanted to hang a lantern on of like, and we're sirens, by the way.
It's like, okay.
Was that like part of the backstory that you were going to tell in your long backstory, Namor? Or
I'm also going to say this. There was no scenario in which humanity finds or gets his resources. If you are able to almost win a fight against Wakanda, which you already are like, that's the toughest nation. Also, you are on the ocean floor. 2 people in suits they can't move in were able to get to you. There is no, and then even then you have to like use a magic doorway and ride a jet stream to get to your house.
that's his commute.
That's his commute. I'm going to say there's a 0% chance that any human ever is able to fight you. Like not even to get to you, let alone then fight you and then get that vibranium away from there.
Absolutely, because his people are also super strong. Like he's Hulk-like. I was actually very surprised the power levels they gave him because he is very, very strong in the comics. I didn't think they were going to give him Hulk level strength, which he does have generally. So he's Hulk-like. His people are like can survive being shot with bullets and they're absolutely fine. Like they come back. So they're also very, very tough. So yeah, like humans die if there's like a little bit of a crack in our suits. We're not coming for your place, man. Like, yeah, if you don't destroy our equipment, we will mine the seafloor to death.
Yeah.
But if you just destroy every piece of equipment we send down there, you're fine.
You're good. You're just...
I mean, I guess they might like nuke them. They'd probably nuke them eventually.
I don't even know if we could...
You send a nuke down the jet stream. And
then it goes, but then you still need to operate the magic door to start that special jet stream.
You need the magic door.
Yeah, I don't know why they needed to show us that there's a magic door that he needs to like rub the right way in order to get that going. Yeah, so I don't think there's any scenario in which humans find him.
That's a great point. Yeah, if he had just stayed under there and he was like, no, I'm just going to destroy all your stuff and you're not going to be able to figure out what it is because the ocean is a mystery to this day.
Yes.
No one knows what's down there.
No one. It's them now.
It's them now,
Yeah.
but they still don't know that. It could just be whales. Just whales are fucking up your shit.
Yeah.
Really powerful whales, strong teeth.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about, this is me just goofing around, but I'm slightly worried about my boy Bucky. Because, man, America wants vibranium bad. He's got a whole arm of it.
Ooh, he does have an arm of it, doesn't he?
And it really highlights how wild it is that they gave him an entire arm of vibranium when this whole movie is like, we kill anyone who takes a drop.
Yeah. Now, is that the one that he still has in Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Yes,
yeah?
because
I know like they give it to him to fight Thanos. I'm not sure if they were like, by the way, here's a regular metal one. We're taking that one back when you leave.
No, because the Dormilaje are able to deactivate it in that one fight scene.
Oh, right.
Because it's from them and they
Yes.
control it. So yeah, he's got a fully vibranium arm, and he's got the only vibranium other than Sam's shield.
I am also going to say that the nation of Sokovia has a shit ton of vibranium because Ultron was made of it. Remember, Ultron got all that vibranium from Claw, and then...
That was to make Vision's body.
Ooh.
Vision was made of vibranium.
All right, so...
Oh, so America has Vision's body?
Yeah.
Or did she turn that
they resurrected
No, she left it there.
Yeah,
No,
but they resurrected it. So
yes,
Vision's,
White Vision.
Yeah, so now Vision's...
There's so many lines to remember.
Now Vision's just out and around rather than just ripping him apart for pure vibranium.
Okay, so
they resurrected
Bucky's arm is still their best shot.
Yeah,
of getting some vibranium.
Yeah. Probably easier.
Dude's got to look out in Thunderbolts, okay?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. And is Claw dead?
Claw's dead. He died
Claw's
in
dead.
Black Panther.
Okay, fair enough.
And oh no, wait, he had that arm in. When did he have the vibranium arm? I think Ultron cut it off.
I mean, Killmonger found some vibranium in a museum that was mislabeled. It's out there.
Mislabeled.
It's out there.
He found a clerical error.
Yes. Yes. And then Cap Shield.
Cap Shield is a big one. Yeah, I said Sam Shield.
Yeah,
so.
okay. Sam Shield, yeah.
You'd think they would take that from him.
So there's a lot going on here. So I think that there are other places to get vibranium, but obviously you want to have a mine and you want to destabilize foreign nations and take their resources, as colonizer nations tend to do.
Unfortunately, that is a true thing.
Yeah, a pretty common thing. I will say my last kind of unfortunate negative for this movie will be the final fight sequence. It doesn't really work in any way. There's no kinetic energy. There's no anything, this big at-sea battle. It's all CGI. There's nothing really happening, no choreography. And the quick editing and splicing undercuts all the tension. When it reaches that point of like Okoye now in the super suit being like, I'm going to fight you, guy who got away before. And I'm like, this wasn't much of a rivalry. I don't even know this fucking dude's name. But okay, we're going to get the rematch. And then she like takes a swing and it cuts away then to Shuri, who's like, I'm going to fight you, Namor. And they're intercutting these things where it's like, look, it's Shuri's right leg. And I'm like, oh, what did that? And then it cuts back to Okoye. And Okoye throws a glowing circle. And before the circle does anything, it cuts back to Shuri. I'm like, what was the glowing circle? And then eventually it cuts back and Okoye's just won. But I never at any point during this whole final section feel like I've watched a fight.
Yeah, it almost feels like when Voltron and you control different limbs of a big monster. The fight was one big monster and you just cut to different limbs over and over again of the fight. And you'd got no perspective on what the actual fight was in any way. Because also it was like, what are the stakes? Like, why are we starting the fight right now? Like, what is going to happen if we win or lose? It's really just, we're all going to die here or we're going to live here. There's no protecting the people. There's no one who's going to die. There's no bomb that's going to go off. It really is just like, we're going to fight till we're done fighting. And there's no geography of it. And it just kind of happens randomly and it's short and it's not interesting.
No.
And then like the emotional crux of it is that Shuri has this like, all these flashbacks. And for the most part, they're good. And then the only negative of Angela Bassett in this movie is when it cuts to her in the astral plane. It's cheesy as hell. And I didn't care for it. This like one shot of her just being like, Shuri, no. I was like, oh no, you found a bad use of Angela Bassett, actually.
Yeah, that was it. But it's Angela Bassett alone acting to nothing, so it's not that great there.
And it's also like, that's not how the astral plane works.
Yeah.
You gotta go into the state and eat the herb.
Yeah, you don't send messages. It's not texting. Like, that's just not how
That's our purview.
That's what we do here at our
text
network.
Superheroes.
Yeah. So yeah, the whole final fight sequence, and then being like, I'm gonna spare you. Okay, sure.
And then they just show up together and they're like, we're allies again. I'm like, you still killed her mom. You attacked their country.
Yeah.
This is bad.
Yeah.
Unprovoked. Yeah, not cool.
Not cool. I did like.
And then you get like the villain speech at the end, like, it was all part of my plan. Like when you get to like Bond 5.
I'm actually okay with that speech. It didn't feel like he was doing like the specter of like it
No.
was all part of it. I think this was him being like,
It kinda
actually,
worked.
we got kind of fucked up, but now that I think about it, this is going to be a pretty
No.
sweet excuse to wreck some people.
I actually completely agree that it was not his plan. And he was like, I can make this work.
Yeah, that was the only moment during this movie. I mean, I know we don't get too comic booky on the podcast, but that was the only moment during this movie where I felt like this Namor might have fought Nazis. Like, like when he was like, they'll come for Wakanda and they're our ally. And that's a great excuse for me to fuck up a large portion of land. Like that was the only time where like I felt like he was a dude who was like, oh, we got a war going on up here? I'm in, baby. I am in.
That's fair. Because, yeah, he fought
I'm one of the defenders.
He fought for the Allies against the Nazis, for those who don't know what we're saying about Namor.
Yes.
Namor fought Nazis.
In World War II,
In World
because
War
he's
II.
been alive a long time.
He
knew Cap and was part of the Defenders.
And so he was just like, yeah, sure, I'll fight Nazis. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
They're not going to come to me, but I will kill them.
Yeah. So that was the only point in the movie where I felt like he was that guy.
Interesting.
But I kind of vibe with it. We never talked about the Killmonger.
That was actually going to be my final point.
Lay it on
And
me.
I was going to say it as a final positive. I loved that. Absolutely loved that. I love getting any Michael B. Jordan. I even liked the twist from Shuri's. I think it worked for Shuri's character that she like finally got to the astral plane. She didn't see what she wanted to see. And like that fucked her up. But like in that moment, she was Killmonger and she was doing the things he does for his reasoning. And also Michael B. Jordan is just so dynamic and he brings it so hard. That scene was incredible. He was just vibing with energy. You can't look away from him. It was so, so good. I loved this reveal. I loved that they found a way to get him in this movie in a very like reasonable way. That I was not like, boo, this is very shoehorned in. Like, it fits so much better than Riri.
Yeah.
Like, it had...
I agree there.
His presence had gravitas, and it fit the story, and it fit the narrative. It was absolutely perfect. I loved that he was there. How did you feel about Michael B. Jordan?
I feel exactly the same about all of it. Truly incredible, really like motivated story-wise. So not only was it like a great, cameo and an appearance of a character and an actor that we know and love, but it was also just a great moment of like, this feels incredibly motivated. Like you said, like this is who Shuri would see, that we've established that the astral plane is different for everyone and you can connect with different people in there. And he would be in there. He's a man who took the heart-shaped herb and died. And
it's her cousin.
Yeah. And like, that's someone who should be in there, and just like the world burning around him as they have this conversation. This all white, like he's still wearing the funeral robe look kind of a thing. That I thought was like a really nice touch. And yeah, he just destroys a scene.
Oh my
Absolutely
God.
Incredible performance.
I am just...
and another moment where I felt bad for Letitia Wright, because I'm like, you can't actually...
He's eating you alive.
You actually can't handle being in a scene with this.
No.
Same thing. Yeah, you cannot handle Michael B. Jordan or Angela Bassett. They're eating you alive in this movie. But yeah, wonderful, wonderful scene.
Yeah, I am absolutely desperate for some like alternate dimension Killmonger to come back in later movies. Like it's gotta happen. He's so good. He's so damn good. I mean, like, what if Killmonger? Well, actually, he was pretty evil. But there's got to be a non-evil Killmonger out there somewhere.
Yeah. There's got to be one good one.
Got to be one good one that we can latch onto. And I loved Michael B. Jordan. I'm so glad they brought him back. Better than his Space Jam 2 cameo. Spoilers for Space Jam 2.
Spoilers for Space Jam 2. But that was a good cameo.
It was really good.
I think the last comment that I want to say, which is a quick one, which is like a quick spoiler warning for She-Hulk. But the end of this movie felt like the ending of She-Hulk if they never cut away from the CGI punch fest. Like the fact that She-Hulk ends with her having to be like, please, no, don't end this in a CGI punch fest. That's not what this story has been. Wakanda Forever feels like that exact criticism done without the pull away.
Oh, okay.
To be like, we did something real, and now we end it with the Marvel formula.
Okay, I thought you were going to say, spoilers for She-Hulk, it ended the same because both end with a reveal of a son.
Yeah.
Very
yeah.
briefly.
Very briefly.
Very brief sun
I
reveal.
like that.
I really like that.
I teared up. That felt beautiful.
It felt really nice. It felt like a really great way to appease the recast T'Challa groups out there that are like have been like chomping at the bit and telling Marvel to recast T'Challa, even though this movie was like already filmed. Like I still see that trending all the time. I'm like, movie's made. But yeah, it's like T'Challa is still here. There is a T'Challa, but right now it Shuri is the Black Panther, and like T'Challa will rise again.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a really nice ending. I don't really like. There's only so much you can do. I don't really believe that like T'Challa would have been like, hide my son away and I'll never see him. I'm like, he would have been a father who would be there for you.
He would be there all the goddamn
every single day.
Every day.
And he would want you to be in his very safe country of Wakanda, protected. And like, so yeah, that didn't ring true, but there's only so much you can do to work that storyline and make it make sense. But yeah, it was really beautiful. Like, and that kid was really charming.
That kid
he had
really
a lot
did
of
pop.
presence.
Yeah.
I was actually like, I wish he'd been in more of this movie. This kid really blows. He's like is really good. It's like, your name's cool too.
Yeah.
It's like, he's awkward. I love that.
Love that.
I love that for him.
I do love that for him. Yeah, and it was just a nice moment, and also just like a nice catharsis as well for Shuri's character, like sitting by the fire and finally like burning the funeral attire from T'Challa's funeral as well. I thought that was a nice moment. I think that was well shot, well done visually, well motivated. I thought that was a good emotional conclusion to the movie, with then a nice little T'Challa lives touch, and then also with like the clips of Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, which just rips your heart out at the end.
I was
really
crying
works.
for so much of this movie. T'Challa, Chadwick just kills me. I don't know how these people could make this movie, like having known him and having loved him, and I have all the respect in the world for doing it and doing it for him. But everyone in this film is so strong for like moving forward, and I have nothing but respect for all of them. And like, it's a mixed bag movie, but there's so much, the love is there in every shot and scene that is about the important things.
An impossible circumstance, and they managed to make art out of it, and that's a beautiful thing. No matter what, that's a beautiful thing.
No matter what.
Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question that we always ask. We finish with the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this movie if you could change anything? But before we do ask that final question, we want to thank our third and final sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our wonderful friends over at TeePublic.
TeePublic.com, where you're going to find your next favorite t-shirt or hoodie or tank tops of various styles. I have several different styles of their tank tops and also of their t-shirts. I think we don't highlight this enough. You can get like a v-neck t-shirt. You can get a circular t-shirt around your neck. You can get a razorback tank top. You can get just like a looser tank top. It's so many varieties, and all those things have incredible designs on them.
And they don't even have to be apparel as well. You can also find a design you like and get it on a cell phone case, laptop case, wall art, stickers, lots of different things. All of the designs are submitted by independent artists who are getting paid commission for their work. So not only do you get something cool, you support an independent artist. It's all well made, well priced, shipped right to your doorstep, and cool independent designs like the one that I'm liking this week. It's Long Live the King. It is a beautiful picture of Chadwick as T'Challa with like an overlay of the Panther kind of in the moonlight, and it says Long Live the King on it. It's a beautiful shirt, wonderful design, really like it.
Absolutely beautiful. My shirt is called Dora Milaje, and they are armored, adored, adorned, and it's the 3 Dora Milaje in front of the sunset, and then they got all their weapons, and there's like a gold outline, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I will say we have several Black Panther t-shirts in our store, and they are easily the most interestingly designed ones.
Yes, they are.
There's always like, they're so beautiful and artistic. Something about Black Panther really brings out something special in the artists, and like there's such good ones, and they really pop, and they also make you feel things.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Really great looks.
Love it. So check out those designs or any of the previous ones we've mentioned on the podcast, as well as so much more. So head on over to teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. That is teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. And when you shop through that store link, not only do you support the artist, but you also directly support this podcast as well. And thank you, TeePublic, for your support.
Thank you, TeePublic.
And as well, before we ask the final question, we'll remind you, as we do every week, this is a free way to support the podcast. Rate, review, subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you're listening to this right now. Helps us move up the charts, helps us find new listeners.
Yes, we would love a 5-star review, letting us know how we're doing, letting other people know that we're also doing great. So I've already told you how we're doing. We're doing great. But just verify for us with a 5-star review. That would be most helpful. We would so much appreciate it if you have the time.
And that's the free way to support the podcast. If you do want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do so over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service. You can subscribe at whatever level is in your budget, and you get different cool bonuses for that subscription level. So even if you just have $1 in your budget, at the $1 a month level, you will get our webcomic a day early. If you have $10 in the budget, at the $10 hero level, you get a bonus episode of this podcast every single month. The one we did this month, a little bit more Michael B. Jordan, we did Creed 2 as our Patreon exclusive episode of the podcast. So head on over to check out all the different donation levels if you have it in the budget. If you don't, we understand. Take care of yourself first. But if you do, hit us up with them ducats over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
My big change is Julia Louis-Dreyfus is in this movie, and she is wildly underutilized. So my big change is that she is trying to destabilize Wakanda by pitting Namor against Wakanda purposefully. So they're framing each other, basically. So they know about
Classic
Black Panther.
False flag operations.
Yeah, they know about Namor. He's not a secret. They've figured after the first attack, they find sonar, whatever. They see it. They know where he is. He's down there. They frame Wakanda and they frame Namor for attacking each other. Namor attacks Wakanda, very, very upset. The U.S. is coming in and they start mining the ocean floor for the vibranium while Namor is attacking Wakanda. Namor City starts to collapse. Wakanda has to go help save the city. They're allies. They beat up the U.S. Everything works out great. The U.S. doesn't get vibranium. They fight for miscommunication reasons and for framing reasons. And then when they realize that they've been set up, they beat the shit out of the Americans and take the vibranium back. Because really these fights are so unmotivated. You don't really want to root for Namor. You're not really rooting for the Wakandans all that much. You just kind of don't want them to fight at all. No one's trying to gain anything in any way. So I think miscommunications, killing each other off, they're being set up to fail, to fight. And then there's a common enemy that they can ally against at the end. So that's my biggest change. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus is the head of it all because she's so she even says that. She says what the things we would do with vibranium. She says she wants to destabilize Wakanda and nothing comes of it. And it's so easy right there to make their fight make more sense. So that's my biggest change.
I love that. I think that is a classic. That is the false flag operation is a classic geopolitical espionage plot that pretty much always works. It's been done, but it's been done for a reason, and I think that Julia Louis-Dreyfus could sell the shit out of that as well.
Martin Freeman maybe not, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and she would use him as a tool to get false information to Wakanda.
I think that would make his character work a little bit more as well. But I could see Julia Louis-Dreyfus easily being if you want to see a magic trick, you give me 2 pieces of vibranium, then I'll turn it into an infinite resource, and it's her planting a vibranium bomb or whatever in one another's nations, and be well, no one has vibranium other than one another, and maybe she's using old pieces of whatever that she found or something.
Bucky's arm.
Yeah, Bucky's arm, a failed Ultron / piece of Vision. Because they had Vision, a piece of Vision.
They must have a
couple
little
chips
extras.
or whatever. I love that. I think that really works.
Thank you. I think it would be fun and better than watching them just kill each other. Andrew, what would you change in Black Panther Wakanda Forever?
This is a really tough one. I think that it needs less Marvel oversight. I think it needs to just be a maybe 2-hour long, a little bit shorter, just maybe an hour 40 to 2 hour long, just kind of thoughtful piece that's a memoriam to Chadwick. I think that we don't need Riri, we don't need Ironheart, we don't need a few of these things. We can still have Namor in this tension, and I think that the way that you did it really works. And maybe we can have one big action set piece. But I think a shorter, quieter movie with a little less Marvel of it all oddly would make it work more, both as an independent piece and as a Marvel movie. And I think would be a great breath of fresh air and kind of a reprieve from the formula, frankly. And it would be just kind of nice to see Coogler's take on it. So I know it's a bit of a simple one, but that's kind of my main thing, where it's just like we don't really need a lot of these action set pieces, and we don't need as much Marvel as we get from it.
No, I completely agree with that. Yeah, I think if you take Riri out, you don't get like the hostage situation. You cut out like 30 minutes of this movie, and it can just be the misunderstanding, one big battle at the end.
Yeah. And then when you do the big battle, then you have more time to actually pay attention to choreography and the fights. And actually keep the camera on the fights would be another big one for me.
Lovely.
Because it's, like we've got characters like Okoye who don't need the armor or whatever. We just need one well choreographed fight. Like Okoye was on the battlefield fighting tanks from Thanos, and now it's like, I don't know, blue guy's pretty tough skin though. Like, no, I think that just like one well choreographed fight sequence is really all we need to sell that. And
especially because she's just like a woman in physical armor. Like, there's nothing CG. Like, let her just learn some choreography and do a cool fight scene.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think one big fight scene in the way that you've set it up, and then we cut out a lot of the Marvel fluff, I think. Yeah.
I love that. I would love that for Black Panther, too.
Yeah, it makes it a different tone.
I think that's absolutely great. I think the best Marvel movies have different tones than, like, the Marvel kind of formula.
Yeah, that is true. I think, like, the things that really worked for us, like Werewolf by Night recently, was so different.
Such a different tone.
We loved it. We loved WandaVision, which was a different tone. Thor Ragnarok, which obviously, like, they repeated that tone a little bit, but that was such a refreshing and different thing at the time.
Yeah,
so,
Winter Soldier, which is like spy thriller espionage. Like,
yeah.
a very different tone than everything else. Yeah.
I still say, like, as well, like First Avengers as like a World War II piece just kind of really works also. So it's a little different. Well, that is going to be it for this week's episode. That is everything that we have to say about Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We are going to be back next week. Next week on the podcast, we are going to be talking about, we put it up for a fan vote. And next week, we're going to be talking about Sky High.
Yes, this was our live Extra Life fundraiser episode that we did on Twitch, and we brought it to you. You guys voted for Sky High for the kids.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, we did it live on the Extra Life charity stream. And by the way, thank you to everybody who donated to that. We raised over $7,000 for Children's Miracle Network hospitals, which is truly incredible. Thank you so much. So for those of you who joined into that stream, you saw us recording it live. For those of you who missed it, it will be available next week as our regular episode talking about Sky High. Until then, if you want to get a hold of us, you can reach me online at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can reach me at Words of Diana.
And you can reach both of us at From Superheroes, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.